The clock had barely struck the hour when the palace released a somber statement that left the nation breathless. In just 5 minutes, headlines were rewritten, lives were upended, and the royal family's youngest heir became the center of a tragic truth no one saw coming. What was meant to be a quiet day in the monarchy instantly transformed into a moment history will never forget. The words were brief, carefully chosen, almost painfully restrained, yet each sentence carried weight far beyond its length, sending shockwaves across the country and the world. A breaking news alert flashed from Buckingham Palace, offering only fragments enough to alarm, but not enough to explain. There were no reassurances, no timelines, no comforting phrases to soften the blow. Instead, the language hinted at severity, permanence, and consequences that could not be undone. Within minutes, broadcasters interrupted scheduled programming. Anchors struggled to maintain composure, repeating the same chilling lines over and over. Social media erupted as timelines flooded with speculation, fear, and disbelief, with people reading the statement repeatedly, searching for hidden clues, and trying to understand what the palace had revealed. In royal communication, what is left unsaid often matters most. Outside the palace gates, reporters gathered with a rare urgency, while royal aides appeared before cameras with faces drained of color, voices tight, and answers rehearsed yet unconvincing. They offered no clarifications, only the promise that further information would follow at the appropriate time, a phrase that sent an even deeper chill through the public consciousness, hinting at difficult truths being negotiated behind closed doors. Most unsettling of all was the silence from Prince William and Catherine. No appearances, no written statements, no quiet acknowledgement to steady the nation's nerves. Their absence spoke louder than any official message ever could. For a family known to project unity in crises, this quiet withdrawal felt deliberate, almost protective, as if something far more personal than protocol was unfolding. Questions flooded every platform. Where was Prince Louis? Why had he not been seen in recent weeks? Had the cheerful child who once charmed crowds from palace balconies been quietly removed for a reason far more serious than anyone suspected? Theories spiraled, some compassionate, others cruel, all fueled by a single fear. The palace was bracing the world for devastating news. Anxiety hardened into dread as the minutes passed. This was no ordinary royal update. This was not a minor health bulletin or temporary setback. The tone, the timing, the collective tension all told a darker story, one the monarchy had tried to shield, delay, and perhaps even deny until it could no longer be contained. For years, the youngest Cambridge had been portrayed as spirited, cheeky, and carefree. But inside palace walls, a different story was emerging, a story of quiet suffering, suppressed truths, and a family desperately trying to protect their child from the harsh gaze of the world. Outwardly, Prince Louis was the heart of every public event, waving from balconies and cracking innocent jokes that charmed the press, hailed as the monarchy's breath of fresh air. Yet over time, appearances grew infrequent, scheduled engagements quietly disappeared, and every time the public asked where he was, the palace offered only careful, measured silence. The palace offered only vague reassurances, phrases like enjoying private time or remaining off duty to focus on studies, but those explanations never truly satisfied. Behind the glossy royal portraits and formal smiles, something far more serious had begun to unfold. Whispers circulated among palace staff. Louis was missing events not by choice, but because of a condition. One insider, speaking under strict anonymity, mentioned troubling phrases used in inner circle briefings and private medical reviews, while another close to the Duchess of Cambridge's personal team hinted that hospital visits had quietly become routine. Catherine's schedule had been abruptly cleared on multiple occasions, often without explanation, and the emotional toll was visible across her usually composed face. In recent months, the poised future queen often appeared distant during engagements, her smile slower, her gaze fixed in thought. Observers speculated stress, exhaustion, or simply the burden of royal life, but few suspected the weight she carried was the uncertainty surrounding her son, and even fewer knew the scale of decisions she and William were forced to make behind closed doors. Aides described an atmosphere of tension within Kensington Palace. Meetings extending late into the night, doors once left open now closed, locked, and guarded with discretion. Reports surfaced of arguments not between the couple, but between them and senior advisors, as the pressure to manage the narrative mounted. Yet William, fiercely protective of his family, refused to risk his son's dignity for public appeasement. The situation carried an eerie sense of déjà vu. Royal watchers could not help but recall past moments when the monarchy had chosen secrecy over openness, burying personal pain beneath the weight of protocol. With echoes of Princess Diana's struggles haunting the present, Diana's hidden struggles came rushing back, along with memories of Prince John, the long-forgotten son of George V. Hidden from public view after his epilepsy diagnosis, history seemed poised to repeat itself. Despite every effort to contain the growing storm, the truth has a way of rising through the cracks. Though the palace had tried desperately to keep Prince Louis's condition private, they underestimated the impact of a single unscripted moment, one unforeseen collapse that would expose everything they had tried to protect to global scrutiny. It was supposed to be a routine royal event, a spring celebration in Windsor's private gardens, an intimate gathering for the children amid weeks of internal strain. Yet at exactly 2:14 p.m., the quiet was shattered. Prince Louis collapsed suddenly near the base of the Rose Gardens East Pavilion. Witnesses later described the moment as surreal, time seeming to freeze as disbelief took hold. Guards quickly moved to lock down the grounds, shielding the young royals from view, while Prince George and Princess Charlotte clung to Catherine, visibly distressed. Catherine, pale and stunned, rushed to her son, cradling him and whispering words no one could hear, before disappearing toward the estate's private medical wing. Even before emergency services arrived, news began leaking. Eyewitnesses posted cryptic messages online. Within an hour, photographers captured an ambulance entering discreetly, followed by a black, unmarked SUV. Speculation exploded. Was it a senior royal, a medical emergency, a security breach? The palace responded with contradictory statements, deepening the mystery. One official called it precautionary, another claimed no cause for concern. For a monarchy known for rigid coordination, the conflicting messages sparked suspicion, but the most damning silence came from William and Catherine. No appearances, no messages, no photos. The last official photo of Louis was weeks old, and now his unexplained collapse turned that absence into a haunting void. Behind closed doors, the situation was urgent. Doctors ran tests, advisors prepared legal contingencies, and whispers of succession began circulating in tones heavy with uncertainty. As the story leaked, the palace faced a stunning decision that could forever alter the line of succession. With Prince Louis's condition now undeniable, questions arose about his place in the royal future. Would tradition override compassion, or would the monarchy rewrite the rules to protect him? The Windsor Garden incident exposed royal loyalties, betrayals, and unthinkable possibilities. In the hours that followed, King Charles summoned an emergency gathering at Clarence House. Senior royals arrived without media notice, advisors moved through back corridors, and legal consultants took their seats, an ominous signal that this was not merely a family matter, but a constitutional reckoning. The room, heavy with tension, bore the weight of generations. The monarchy now faced a dilemma not seen since Edward VIII's abdication. Discussions began with quiet urgency. What would happen if Louis, third in line to the throne, could no longer fulfill his future duties? Could the monarchy risk waiting for answers that might never come, or worse, face another public crisis that could fracture the institution from within? The meeting quickly split into factions driven by conflicting instincts. Transparency versus tradition. Princess Anne and Prince Edward found themselves on opposite ends, and, fiercely loyal to duty, advocated for careful disclosure to prepare the public without inciting panic. Edward, however, urged discretion, warning of long-term damage if the monarchy appeared weak. Camilla leaned in with a single word: containment. The public could not handle another royal vulnerability, she insisted. Silence and control were paramount while Charles stabilized his reign. At the center of it all was Prince William, emotionally exhausted but resolute, torn between the weight of the crown and the fragility of fatherhood. He had cradled his youngest child during the collapse, spent days beside hospital walls that felt like prisons, and now faced the impossible. Considering removing his son from the line of succession, not out of rejection, but to preserve the monarchy, even if it shattered his family. By early morning, a memo had been drafted, a single-page proposal outlining a temporary adjustment to the royal succession, citing health and constitutional preparedness. It was not intended for public eyes, merely a contingency to buy time while decisions were made. Yet the existence of the document alone revealed the crown was preparing for a future without Prince Louis in the direct line. Outside, the press grew aggressive. Leaks surfaced, whispers of abdication echoed through government channels, and the palace's defenses began to crack. Then a rogue insider acted. A confidential medical document confirming what the palace had feared surfaced in the press. The public saw the truth for the first time, and it hit harder than anyone imagined. A stark headline announced in bold, "Prince Louis confirmed diagnosis," accompanied by a scan of the medical report dated just weeks before the Windsor collapse. The details were undeniable, and shockwaves rippled across the nation. The revelation sent shockwaves across the country. Prince Louis had been diagnosed with a rare, chronic, degenerative neurological disorder, one with no cure. Overnight, all speculation, all carefully constructed denials, shattered like glass under a spotlight. The story spread within minutes. Morning newsrooms scrambled to verify the leak, while social media erupted in a tidal wave of grief, confusion, and betrayal. People weren't just reacting to the diagnosis. They were reacting to the lie, the cover-up, the deliberate silence. For weeks, the public had been fed fragments, reassurances, empty statements, and now the truth had emerged not from the palace, but from an insider who risked everything to force transparency. The leak was traced to a royal staffer, anonymous and protected, reportedly someone with direct access to confidential medical briefings. The motive wasn't money or revenge, it was desperation. Alongside the report, the whistleblower's message read, "The public deserves to know the truth. Louis deserves to be seen, not hidden." Those words ignited a conversation the monarchy could no longer control. Some called it a disgrace, a shameful violation of a child's privacy. Others called it justice, a reckoning for an institution too accustomed to secrecy. The nation was divided, yet united in grief. Prince Louis's name trended worldwide. Hashtags multiplied by the hour. People posted childhood photos, heart emojis, prayers, and messages of heartbreak. He was no longer just a royal. He had become a symbol of innocence trapped in a system far larger than himself. As expected, the royal family remained silent, no comments, no press conference, no denial. The damage was done, and in that silence, the already fragile trust between the public and the palace crumbled. Commentators labeled it the greatest communications failure since Diana's death. Even traditionally loyal media outlets demanded accountability. Why had the public been lied to? Why had the truth been forced out by a leak rather than owned by the family? Amid the outrage, one thing became clear: the monarchy's control was slipping, and no amount of protocol or strategy could contain the storm. No amount of palace etiquette could contain a scandal of this magnitude. Within those crumbling walls, the royal family grappled with more than public fallout. They faced the reality of their youngest child's future being dissected by the world. Amid the pressure, one figure stepped forward, breaking the silence and the nation's heart: the Duchess of Cambridge. Composed yet tearful, Catherine appeared before the cameras not with protocol, but with raw, painful honesty. What followed was less a statement than a confession, a mother's truth about watching her child suffer in silence, and the impossible decisions she had been forced to make. After days of palace denial, retreat, and silence, the press office announced a live broadcast with no pre-recording or embellishment. Just a time, a channel, and a name: Catherine, Princess of Wales. When she spoke, there was no royal backdrop, only a mother visibly drained but standing resolute, her voice trembling yet steady with aching truth. She confirmed what the leak had already exposed. Louis had been diagnosed with a degenerative neurological condition. The prognosis remained uncertain. Some days were bright, others unbearable. Privacy, she explained, had been chosen not to deceive, but to give Louis a chance to live without the weight of a title becoming a burden. She shared the intimate moments of sitting beside his bed, reading stories while silently praying for a different future, and admitted guilt not for hiding the truth, but for letting the silence feel like betrayal. Catherine spoke of Louis's laughter, his curiosity, his resilience, and even quoted him: "Mommy, even if I get tired, I'll just rest and dream about flying, and that's what keeps me going." She thanked the public not only for their sympathy, but for their outrage and demand for truth, asking for understanding and compassion as the family navigated this painful journey. While her courage won the hearts of millions, it ignited tensions behind palace doors. William's protective rage collided with Charles's rigid adherence to tradition, marking the first generational standoff in years. Unity seen by the public masked fracturing within the firm. William cancelled engagements, declined briefings, and drew a line. If the crown could not stand for compassion, it stood for nothing. Charles, fearing loss of control, challenged his son's emotional judgment, questioning his readiness to rule. Camilla sided with Charles, arguing that sympathy could not become strategy. while William viewed compassion as a measure of dignity under threat. Quietly, he withdrew further, letting absence speak volumes. The palace tried to frame it as family focus, but the public saw a father standing between a crown and his son, a struggle not of abdication or rebellion, but of preserving empathy, truth, and humanity in an institution struggling to contain a narrative it no longer controlled. The family fractured behind closed doors. The public rallied around a single symbol of hope, the boy at the center of it all. News of Prince Louis's condition spread across the globe, and the world responded not with scandal, but with solidarity. Across continents, millions lit candles, wrote letters, and demanded a new era of transparency and compassion from the world's most powerful monarchy. In London, thousands gathered outside Kensington Palace at dusk, candles flickering along the gates, messages in children's handwriting taped to iron bars, stuffed animals lying beside bouquets of white roses. Within hours, the images circulated worldwide. In Toronto, Sydney, Cape Town, and New York, people assembled not to protest, but to stand in unity with a child they had never met and a family many had once criticized. Social media ignited. The hashtag Love for Louis became a global banner of empathy, reaching millions within 24 hours, transcending borders, languages, and politics. Parents of children with disabilities shared their stories. Strangers wrote to Louis, William, and Catherine, thanking them for their courage and for showing that even royalty is not immune to pain. The digital tide of compassion proved what the palace never anticipated: humanity still outweighed curiosity. Prominent figures stepped forward. World leaders sent personal notes of encouragement. Celebrities demanded a re-evaluation of how the monarchy handles health matters, and even estranged royals from Montito, Madrid, and Monaco broke their silence. Mental health advocates, child development specialists, and royal commentators amplified a growing call for reform, arguing that the institution had long hidden behind protocol while its members silently suffered. A petition gained momentum, calling for a Royal Health Transparency Council to ensure future generations would never again be forced to choose between privacy and truth, dignity and deception. Through it all, Prince Louis became something no one expected. A symbol of resilience within a system long accused of coldness. No longer just the cheeky royal waving from balconies, he became a face for children with invisible struggles, a reminder that even behind crowns, humanity bleeds. In doing so, he reminded the monarchy of its greatest power: connection, not wealth or ceremony. But just when hope seemed to rise from the ashes, a final, unexpected twist left the monarchy once again teetering on the edge. Quietly, a handwritten note from Prince Louis slipped into the press, shared by someone close to the palace. In a few childlike but powerful words, the young royal delivered a message that stunned a grieving nation and pierced the hearts of those who had long held the crown above all else. The palace hadn't authorized it, and the public hadn't demanded it, but there it was. A letter, folded once, signed with a wobbly scroll, addressed not to a person or an institution, but to everyone who loved him. At first, people questioned its authenticity. It felt too raw, too gentle, too personal to be real. Yet trusted sources soon confirmed it was Louis's own voice, devastating in its innocence and clarity. "Sometimes I don't know why my legs feel tired," he wrote. "Sometimes I want to run, but I just sit and watch the sky instead." There was no bitterness, no resentment, only a child quietly processing a body that could not keep up with his spirit. He spoke not of crowns or titles, but of being king of hearts, of George and Charlotte making him laugh when he wanted to cry, of the small joys his siblings gave him during long nights. "They say I'm brave," he wrote, "but really, I'm just trying to smile like mommy does." And in a final, haunting line, he added, "Don't be sad for me. I am still shining," signed simply Lou, with a small heart drawn underneath. The letter detonated worldwide, not with fury, but with feeling. Anchors choked up reading it. Journalists struggled to maintain composure. People who had never cared about royal affairs wept over a boy who sought only to be heard. Editorials poured in, not for sympathy, but for change. If a child could speak his truth, why couldn't the crown evolve? Louis had become more than a royal child. He had become a mirror reflecting everything the institution still refused to confront. And through it all, the palace remained silent. No statement, no denial, just the quiet impact of a nation absorbing a truth long hidden, spoken not in political rhetoric, but in a child's handwriting. One thing became heartbreakingly clear: the monarchy would never be the same again.